Imagine you've been planning your dream vacation for months. You've booked the flights, the cruises are paid for, and you're standing at the airport counter with your suitcase packed. You hand over your passport thinking everything is in order. After all, it doesn't expire for another 5 months. But then, the airline agent looks at the screen, looks back at you, and delivers the news that ruins everything. You aren't getting on that plane. It sounds like a nightmare, but in 2026, this is becoming a reality for thousands of travelers, especially seniors. The rules of the road have changed, and if you're still traveling with the same mindset you had a few years ago, you are at a serious risk of travel denial. We aren't just talking about a little delay at security, we're talking about being flat out rejected at the gate, or even worse, being turned away at a foreign border and sent right back home on the next flight at your own expense. I know how much you value your time and the hard-earned money you've put into these trips. That's why today's video is so important. We're diving deep into the massive 2026 passport changes that are catching people off guard. If you're over 60, or if you're planning travel for someone who is, there are specific gotchas in the system now that simply didn't exist before. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of these new rules, do me a quick favor. If you want to keep traveling smoothly and stay ahead of these administrative headaches, hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the video reach other travelers who might be walking into a trap without knowing it. Now, let's get into the first and arguably most dangerous change, the death of the expiration date. For decades, we've looked at that date on the front page of our passports as the ultimate deadline. If it says it's good until June, we assume we can travel in May. In 2026, that is a dangerous assumption. Most popular international destinations, particularly in Europe, Asia, and South America, have now standardized what's called the 6-month validity rule. This means your passport doesn't actually expire on the date printed on the page. For travel purposes, it expires 6 months before that date. If you try to board a flight to Italy or Japan with 4 months left on your passport, the airline is now legally required to deny you boarding. Why? Because if they fly you there and the local border authorities reject you, the airline gets slapped with a massive fine. They aren't going to take that risk for you. For seniors who might only travel once every year or two, it's incredibly easy to lose track of that window. You might think you have plenty of time, but the system sees a dead document. This leads us directly into the second big trap, the invisible damage rule. In the past, as long as your photo was recognizable and the pages weren't falling out, you were usually fine. But 2026 marks the full-scale rollout of new biometric kiosks across the globe, especially with the implementation of the European Entry-Exit System, or EES. These machines don't care how nice you look or how many countries you've visited. They only care about the RFID chip embedded in the back of your passport. If you've spent years keeping your passport in a back pocket, or if it's ever been slightly dampened in a beach bag, that chip might be compromised. Even a tiny, almost invisible bend in the back cover can render the chip unreadable. In the old days, a human agent might have just typed in your number manually. Now, many high-tech borders are kiosk first, and if that machine can't talk to your chip, you're flagged for secondary screening, which can lead to hours of delays or even an outright denial if they suspect the document has been tampered with. While we're talking about the physical state of your passport, we have to address the blank page crisis. This is something that catches a lot of seasoned travelers, the ones who have been everywhere and have the stamps to prove it. Many countries, including major hubs like South Africa or even some European nations, now strictly require at least 2, and sometimes 4, entirely blank consecutive visa pages. In 2026, border agents are being much more meticulous about this because they need space for the new digital tracking stickers and high-resolution stamps. If you've been saving space by asking agents to stamp in the corners or around other stamps, you're playing a risky game. If you open your passport and realize you're down to your last couple of pages, don't wait. The State Department has seen a surge in applications this year. An expedited service isn't as fast as it used to be. You do not want to be the person frantically calling the passport agency 2 days before a trip to Greece because you realized your book is full. It's not just the passport itself that's changing, it's the technology surrounding it. You've probably heard about the Real ID deadline that finally went into full effect. For domestic travel within the United States, your old-school driver's license might not cut it anymore at the TSA checkpoint. While many of us have updated to the Gold Star licenses, there's a segment of the population, especially those who don't renew their licenses often, who are still carrying non-compliant IDs. By 2026, TSA agents have been instructed to show zero leniency. If you don't have a real ID or a valid passport for a simple flight from New York to Florida, you aren't getting past security. This is a huge pain point because it adds a layer of bureaucracy to even the simplest domestic trips. People are showing up at the airport for a family wedding or a weekend getaway only to find out their identity isn't verified, according to the new federal standards. I'm seeing a lot of discussion in the travel community about how these changes feel like they're targeting older travelers who might not be as plugged in to every Department of State alert. It feels a bit unfair, doesn't it? You've spent a lifetime following the rules and suddenly the goalposts have moved. That's why I'm putting this together, to make sure you're the most informed person in the terminal. If you're finding this helpful so far, please share this video with your travel group or your family. A quick share could literally save someone thousands of dollars in lost bookings. Speaking of lost money, let's talk about the third major shift, the transition to digital-first documentation. We are entering an era where having the physical book is just the baseline. Many countries are now requiring pre-travel digital authorizations that are linked to your passport number. If you haven't completed the online registration 72 hours before you fly, your passport essentially becomes inactive in the airline system. They'll scan your book at the check-in desk, and instead of a green light, they'll get a red "authorization not found" message. We'll be diving much deeper into the specific European and Asian systems in the next part of this video, because those are the ones causing the most headaches right now. But before we move on, I want you to take a look at your passport right now. Don't just look at the date. Look at the edges. Is there any fraying? Is the gold emblem on the front fading? Does it feel limp or stiff? Most importantly, if you hold the back cover up to a bright light, do you see any indentations? These physical health checks are your first line of defense. In 2026, the border isn't a conversation. It's a data exchange. If your document can't provide that data instantly and accurately, the system is designed to say no. It's a cold, hard reality of modern travel, but it's one you can easily beat with just a little bit of preparation. In the next section, we're going to talk about the specific new electronic travel authorizations that are mandatory for 2026 and how a simple typo on a website can lead to a permanent travel ban. Stay with me, because this next part is where most of the actual denials are happening this year. Moving on to what is arguably the biggest logistical hurdle for 2026, the global shift toward mandatory digital pre-screening. For years, we've enjoyed visa-free travel to places like the UK, France, and Japan. You just showed up with your American passport, and you were in. But as of 2026, the term visa-free is a bit of a misnomer. While you don't need a traditional paper visa, you now need something called an electronic travel authorization, or ETA. If you've ever traveled to Australia or Canada, you've seen a version of this, but now the entire world is following suit. First, let's talk about Europe, because this is where the most confusion is happening right now. The European Union has finally fully launched ETIAS, the European Travel Information and Authorization System. If you are planning to visit Italy, Spain, Greece, or any of the 29 Schengen area countries, you must apply for this online before you even leave for the airport. The application fee is €20, which is about $22. But here's the interesting part. If you're over 70, the fee is actually waived. That's a nice gesture, but don't let the free price tag fool you into thinking the process is optional. You still have to go through the entire digital application. If you show up at the gate in New York or Chicago without that digital OK linked to your passport, the airline will not let you board. They are checking for this at the check-in counter, just like they check for your suitcase weight. Second, the United Kingdom has its own separate system now. Even if you're just doing a quick layover at Heathrow on your way to somewhere else, you are required to have a UK ETA. This system went into full effect for US citizens in February 2026. It costs £16, and it's valid for 2 years. This is a common trap because many travelers assume that if they have the European ETIAS, they're covered for London too. They aren't. They are two completely separate systems. I've heard stories of people getting their European approval, feeling all prepared, and then getting stuck at the gate because they forgot the UK has its own set of digital keys now. Third, we have to look across the Pacific to Japan. They've introduced their own version called Jesta. Like the others, it's designed to pre-screen travelers to smooth out the arrival process. But here's where it gets tricky for seniors. These digital forms often ask for specific details about your health and travel history. If you accidentally check the wrong box, maybe you misinterpret a question about a past medical issue or a minor legal blip from 40 years ago, your application could be flagged for manual review. A manual review can take weeks, and there is no customer service line you can call to speed it up. You are at the mercy of the digital queue. This brings us to a very real pain point that I want to address: the rise of copycat websites. If you search for ETIAS application or UK ETA on Google, the first 5 results are often third-party companies that look incredibly official. They use the flags, they use the official sounding names, but they aren't the government. They will charge you a processing fee of $100 or more for a service that should cost you $20 or be free for those over 70. Even worse, if they make a typo in your passport number, you're the one who gets denied at the border, not them. Always make sure you are on a .gov or the official .u website. If you're thinking this is a lot to keep track of, you are absolutely right. The simple act of international travel now requires a checklist that looks like a homework assignment. But honestly, it's better to deal with this homework in your living room than at a boarding gate with a line of 200 people behind you. If you're finding this breakdown useful, please take a second to hit that like button. It tells the YouTube algorithm that this is information people actually need to see, and it helps me keep producing these deep dives for you. Now, while these digital authorizations are the new software of travel, the hardware, the physical border itself, has also changed. This is where we see the implementation of the Entry-Exit System, or EES, in Europe. Starting in 2026, the days of getting those beautiful ink stamps in your passport are mostly over. Instead, when you arrive, you'll be directed to a kiosk where you'll provide your biometrics. This means a high-resolution facial scan and 4 fingerprints. For many of us, this feels like an invasion of privacy, but it is now the standard requirement for entry. Here's the part that is catching seniors off guard. The technology isn't always perfect. If you've had cataract surgery or other eye procedures, the iris or facial scanners can sometimes struggle. If you have thin skin or certain types of arthritis that make it hard to press your fingers firmly on the glass, the fingerprint scanners might fail. In the past, you just talked to the person in the booth. Now the machines are the first line of defense. If the machine fails you twice, you're pulled aside for secondary inspection. This doesn't mean you're in trouble, but it does mean you might miss your connecting flight. My advice? Always allow at least a 3-hour layover if you're entering a major hub like Paris, Frankfurt, or Tokyo this year. The 1-hour sprint between gates is officially a thing of the past. It's also worth noting that these systems are designed to track overstaying with ruthless efficiency. In the old days, you could sometimes slip under the radar if you stayed 91 days instead of 90 because an agent didn't look closely at your stamps. In 2026, the system knows exactly how many minutes you've been in the country. If you overstay by even a few hours because of a delayed flight home, that red flag is now permanently attached to your digital passport profile. This could lead to an automatic denial the next time you try to apply for an ETIAS or an ETA. It's a level of Big Brother that we just haven't had to deal with before. But don't let this discourage you from traveling. The world is still out there, and it's still beautiful. The trick is simply knowing the new language of the border. In the final part of this video, we're going to talk about the emergency recovery plan. What do you do if your passport is lost or denied at the last second? And I'll share the specific senior travel kit I recommend for 2026 to ensure that even if the technology fails, you still get to your destination. We'll also touch on the newest US passport renewal fast lanes that most people don't know exist yet. So, you've checked your date, you've inspected your chip, and you've looked into those new digital authorizations. But what happens if the unthinkable happens? What if you're at the airport and a glitch or a last-minute oversight puts your trip on the line? In this final part, I want to give you the emergency recovery plan and the ultimate 2026 senior travel kit to make sure you stay in control, no matter what the technology throws at you. First, let's talk about the absolute fast lane for renewals that most people are still overlooking. As of early 2026, the online passport renewal system is fully operational for most adults. If your current passport was issued when you were 16 or older, and it's still in your possession, you can likely skip the post office entirely. This is a game changer for anyone who finds the traditional paper and mail process a headache. However, there's a catch. The online system is currently only offering routine service, which is running about 4 to 6 weeks. If you're traveling in less than 2 months, do not use the online portal. You'll be stuck in a digital queue with no easy way to pull your application out to expedite it. Second, if you find yourself with an expired passport and a trip scheduled in the next 14 days, you need to know about the urgent travel appointments. There are 26 regional passport agencies across the U.S., from Seattle to Miami. These are not post offices. These are federal buildings where they can print a passport on site. To get an appointment, you must show proof of international travel within 14 calendar days. These slots are like gold. They fill up within minutes of opening each morning. My tip? If you can't find an appointment in your home city, check the nearest major hub. Sometimes a 3-hour drive to a different agency is the only thing that will save a 5-figure vacation. Third, I highly recommend every traveler over 60 put together what I call a 2026 travel buffer kit. This isn't just about your passport book. It should include a high-quality color photocopy of your passport's photo page, a printed copy of your ETIAS or ETA approval, and, this is the one people forget, a letter from your doctor. With the new biometric scanners I mentioned earlier, if you have a medical condition that affects your gait or your eyes, having a signed medical note on official letterhead can be the difference between a 5-minute conversation and a 2-hour detention. Keep these physical backups in a separate part of your luggage from your actual passport. If your bag gets snatched, you still have the identity you need to get help at the nearest US embassy. I also want to touch on the name match trap. In 2026, the computers are doing the talking, and computers are literal. If your passport says Robert J. Smith, but your airline ticket says Bob Smith, or if your new ETIAS authorization leaves out your middle initial that's on your passport, the system might flag a mismatch. We used to be able to explain this to a human agent. Now that mismatch can prevent you from checking in online, which triggers a manual document check at the airport. Save yourself the stress. Make sure every single document from your cruise booking to your digital travel forms matches your passport's machine-readable zone. Those 2 lines at the bottom of your photo page. Exactly. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you a quick question. Have you checked your passport's physical condition lately? Drop a comment below and let me know if you've noticed any of that invisible damage, or if you've already tried the new online renewal system. Your experiences help everyone else in this community stay ahead of the curve. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe. I'm constantly monitoring the State Department and international border updates so you don't have to. The world of travel in 2026 is definitely more complex than it was a decade ago. It feels like there's a new layer of bureaucracy every time we turn around. But remember, these rules aren't designed to keep you from traveling. They're designed to digitize the border. Once you're through that gate and you're sitting on a cafe terrace in Rome or watching the sunset in Kyoto, all this paperwork will be a distant memory. The key is just to handle the business side of your vacation early so you can enjoy the dream side of it without any fear of denial. So, here is your 2026 checklist. Check for that 6-month buffer. Apply for your digital authorizations at least 3 weeks out and verify that your name is identical across every reservation. If you do those 3 things, you are already ahead of 90% of the people standing in line. You've worked hard for your retirement and your travel time. Don't let a simple clerical change take that away from you. Stay informed, stay prepared, and I'll see you at the departure gate.